Okay, this is Sophie, and Sophie has a lot of dietary restrictions, so we're using Cheerios. Normally I would like to use a high-value treat, and I'd like the guardian to talk to her nutritionist and find something that's different than what she normally feeds or gives Sophie as a treat, so this can be a special reward. We want something that's very special and it makes it a little bit more valuable. Now in this, what I'm going to do, this is going to be a little bit more difficult than what I do normally, because I usually use a very high, a treat with a very strong smell. It's very important to dogs. The scent is the most important thing. So what I would do is I'm going to show her that I have a hand of both of these. I'm going to put them right here on my knees. Now she's going to go where the scent is strongest, like she's doing right there. Now we'll wait for her to look at me in the face. Focus. And I immediately transfer another treat in my hand. I wait for her to look up at me. Focus. What I'm trying to do is reward her for giving me not eye contact, but facial contact. Now she's going to look anywhere. I don't lure her. I don't make any sounds. I'm only rewarding her when she does the thing that I want her to do. This is kind of a tenet of positive dog training, is we kind of put the dog in a position where it only has the option to do what we want. Focus. And then when it does it, we reward it, and eventually then we start adding in other variables, other options. Focus. But the dog continues to do what we want it to do because that first option is what gets me the reward. So I know that I'm going to get a reward for looking up in the face, so that's what I'm going to continue to do. Now this is kind of an example of why I like using higher value treats. You see she's not focused. Not as interested as I would love her to be, like just locked in. Now I want you to imagine while you're looking at this on TV or on your screen that there's a string going from right here between my eyes to between her eyes. So I want to basically, my first movement is to break the string. So let's see if I can get her to do it again. Focus. So I want to raise it so that her gaze is towards me, and once the treat is between those two things, then I travel down to her mouth and then pop it in her mouth and I say the word focus. Where's sweetheart? Sit. Sit. All right, so now I'm going to do it again. Focus. So every time she looks in the face, something good happens and she hears the word focus. Focus. Now I just got done talking about this a little bit off camera, but when humans learn, we learn in a classroom. Focus. And we learn in a safe testing environment. If it was really high value, she would not turn around at that point. But we learn in a really high, focus. In a classroom environment, so if we make a mistake, it's okay. There's no pressure because it is a class environment. But if we take math in addition in first grade and we don't pass it, we should have to take first grade again, and we keep on taking that until we get a passing grade. Then we go to the next grade, and when we go to second grade, then we learn subtraction. Then we learn multiplication and division. So when we're teaching our dog, we want to try to, how can I break the activity or the exercise down into small individual steps and help the dog practice each individual step. It's a little bit different than what I'm talking about here, but when she has a behavior, a lot of times we get upset for the dog not behaving how we want, but we haven't taught the dog to behave the way we want. So I jokingly say there's no such thing as, or there's no entrapment laws for dogs. So I might recreate a situation where the dog behaved in a way that I didn't want and help them practice sit. The behavior that I want each individual step along the way. I don't go to step 2 until we've practiced step 1 over and over and over until the dog does step 1. Then I go to step 2. So example of this might be answering the door. First the doorbell rings and the dog barks. Well, my first step might be to counter condition the dog so it no longer barks at the doorbell. So what I would do, and I talked a little bit about counter conditioning off camera, but what I would do is I would have somebody outside at the doorbell, and I'd be talking to them with speakerphone with my phone behind me. And I'm going to let the dog chew on it, and I'm going to say now. And they would ring the doorbell after the treat touches their lips. Now this is a really high value treat. I like to usually hold it and let the dog nibble on it while it's in my hand. She can't really do that with the Cheerio, which is another reason why I'm not a fan. It's okay, but we need to get something that's going to be a little softer, like we talked about, like maybe a frozen piece of peanut butter, so that she can lick on and she lingers longer to get it. So what we do is I have her on a leash, because I'm normally, if the doorbell rang, she would be barking and running there. The more a dog moves around, the more animated or worked up, we call it aroused, they get. Well, if we prevent them from doing that by having them on a leash and I'm stepping on a leash, now she can't go too far. So she doesn't get a chance to get herself all wound up. And we want to be far enough away from the stimulus so that the dog can focus on what we have. If the doorbell chime is right here, it's really loud to us. But if the doorbell chime is on the other side of the house, then it's not as intense. So when we practice this, I would move as far away from the doorbell ringer as I can and talk to somebody on the phone so that the sound is much lower and the intensity is less, so she can actually focus on getting the treats. Once she can get the treats at that distance, then I'm going to move one step closer and repeat the process until I get about 5 in a row where she doesn't respond. And then I get a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And again, when we get to the point where you put the object in front of her mouth and she looks away or she won't sit, those are my 2 tests. That means, okay, the dog is getting ready to reach her breaking point. This has to be done what we call below threshold. Now, this is a ways away from what I'm going at, but this is where we start off with the focus exercise, and I'll kind of wrap it up here in a sec. But the key is we want to be delivering the high value reward before the thing happens the dog normally reacts to. And the thing the dog reacts to has to be at such a low intensity that the dog doesn't react to it. And then once the dog can handle it at that level of intensity, then we increase the level of intensity. We do that by either decreasing the distance, turning the volume. If it's a visual, I might have the dog looking at something that's moving, not moving first, then moving in slow motion, then moving in a medium motion, then moving in regular motion, then moving in fast motion. And so again, we're going to program the dog or help the dog develop and learn a new behavior while it's having something pleasurable happen. So instead of me reacting and barking at you saying, I disagree with you, well, actually, I kind of like it. So for a lot of situations, let's say the dog barks at other dogs, which is a problem that she has. So we have another dog at 100 yards away, and that's her that's her threshold. She can handle it. Then we start letting the dog chew on this really tasty item, and the other dog starts walking towards us. Well, as soon as the dog stops, then I have the person stop, because now we're at our breaking point. And at that point, we have the person turn around and walk away, and the treat goes away. So as a dog, the only time I get this really super duper good treat is when a dog is approaching me. As soon as the dog stops, the treat goes away. After enough repetition, the dog's like, I don't want it to stop. I want it to keep on coming because I want to continue getting that treat. We've associated the treat or the high value reward with the stimulus the dog used to react to. Now, I said I would wrap this up. My mentor, closest thing I know to a mentor, is a woman named Karen London. She's one of the PhD dog behaviors. So there's only about 50 in the country. She wrote a book called Feisty Fido, Solutions for the Leash Reactive Dog. If you have a dog that reacts to other dogs, I would highly recommend it because it's a very easy read and this is the approach that I use. Now I've added my own twist to it. What we do first is we teach the dog to focus. Now Karen calls it the watch. I use focus because I have a different command for watch and different exercise. Now as soon as, I want to keep on doing this multiple times a day. When I do it, I usually have about 10 to 15 treats. I'm going focus as soon as the dog looks at me. And at first it's 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. And immediately after each one, reload your hand so she knows there's another treat there. Once you get to the point where she's like just pretty much staring at you the whole time, then I go 2 seconds on the second movement. 1 second to pick it up and then 2 seconds to deliver. And I practice all 10 or 12 treats at 2 seconds, and I might do that a couple times until she's just staring at me for all 2 seconds. Then I go to 3 seconds, 4 seconds. I keep doing this until I can get the dog to look at me for 20 seconds. So very slow as it's going towards the dog's mouth. And the second it touches her lips, you hear the word focus. Now what Karen does, I'm going to give you a very abbreviated version because this is a way longer video than I normally would do. But Karen wants you to go, and this would work perfect for you because you have paths at your house and there's a lot of people walking their dogs. So what we want to do is we want to put the dog into a sit after it has mastered the focus. Now I would do the focus exercise all over your house in different places. Once you get to 20 seconds, then start doing it at different locations. Eventually I would do it on your little deck here when there are no distractions outside. So she can focus on focusing. Now once we get to that point, now we're ready to start using it outside. Now you were asking, Guardian was asking me earlier about using this on walks, and we could eventually use this on walks, but I want to fix it so the dog doesn't think that other dogs are a threat. I perceive that a lot of this is based on no rules or structure, and so she thinks she's protecting the human. And I think by adding rules and structure, it's going to take care of this without needing this. But I'm going to show you the focus exercise, or I want you to do the focus exercise because it's a great way to redirect your dog. So once we get to the point where the dog will focus for up to 20 seconds, inside, outside, wherever, without any stimulus, then what we do is we go, and let's say that my field of vision is between my arms right here. Over here, there's some trees that obscure my vision, and over here, there's a house that obscures my vision. And the path runs in front of me. People are walking down the path with their dogs this direction. So I can see through the trees that a dog is about to appear on the path and walking here. As soon as I see that it's about to appear, I turn my gaze down to my dog, which I have sitting on a leash. I'm stepping on the leash, or kneeling on it in this case. As soon as your dog's gonna be kind of like, she's like, Sophie's kind of hanging out, and she sees the other dog, she's like, I wait about 1 second, maybe 2. And then if she doesn't look up at me, I say, focus. We have to do this so that the dog is so far away that it doesn't perceive it as a threat. And when I say focus, if we've established it properly, she looks up at me. I go like this and go focus. Now, so I've redirected her attention away from the dog that she's barking at, paying attention to me to get that reward. I keep on doing this until and I give her about 2 seconds each time we see a dog, until when she sees a dog, instead of waiting for me to say focus, she immediately looks up at me. We've conditioned her now. When you see a dog and you look up at the human, you get a reward. Once she does this, Karen calls this the auto watch. I call it the auto focus. When she does that, you should give her 5 treats in a row. Focus, focus. We were saying, what did I just do? I just got the mother load of treats. I got to remember what I did so I can do that again. You keep on practicing at this distance until every time Sophie sees another dog, instead of barking at her, she looks up at you automatically. Once you're at that distance, then you can move 1 step closer to where that path is. And kind of the principle that I talked to you about Guardian about off camera, we're eventually going to collapse that distance. And this is going to take a lot of repetition, but eventually the dog can be right here and she's looking up at you and not paying any attention to the other dog, because the dog's not a threat, nothing bad's happening with the other dog, but every time I look up at the human, I get this really tasty reward. So I've been conditioned now, counter-conditioned, instead of reacting to the other dog, I look away at the other dog, look at my human, and I'm rewarded for doing so. This is a very long video about how you can use counter conditioning to stop your dog from reacting to other dogs.